Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, August the 9th. I have a lot to talk about this morning. I want to first talk about the sea surface temperature anomalies around the world and how it may impact the rest of the tropical season, and then even kind of take a sneak peek at what I'm looking at for the upcoming winter season. And then we'll focus back on the continental U.S. There's a severe thunderstorm threat today across the Tennessee Valley, the middle Mississippi Valley, and there very well could be a repeat performance in the mid-Atlantic region late Monday night time frame, a week after the last severe wind event this past Monday and Monday night. We have kind of a similar situation setting up for early next week with a very potent system expected across the Great Lakes and head towards the northern mid-Atlantic early part of next week. So we'll talk about that as well. But first, let's talk about the sea surface temperature anomalies. This particular map comes from the Canadian Meteorological Center. And this is your El Nino right here. This horizontal line represents the latitude 0, the equator right here. And this is your developing and still intensifying El Nino. And this is certainly playing a role in the tropical season, and it will have an impact on the upcoming winter season. One of the things you may notice right here is this is an anomaly plot right here, an anomaly map. So what we're seeing here in the very eastern part of the tropical Pacific right here, this is relative to normal, the hottest part of the El Nino right now. You can see on the legend down below, we're talking about temperatures maybe some 4 to 5 degrees above normal at the surface level just off the west coast of South America. Now, the reason I'm pointing that out is for the winter, the upcoming winter, one of the things I'll be looking at is exactly where does the El Nino set up for the winter season in terms of relative to normal. There are some indications, some reasons to believe that while right now the El Nino is strongest, hottest relative to normal in the eastern part of the tropical Pacific, there are some signs that that will tend to shift to the central part of the Pacific Ocean. There's some very warm waters underneath getting ready to bubble up to the top right in this part of the tropical Pacific Ocean. In the wintertime, climatologically speaking, when you have El Nino that is more concentrated, warmer than normal, relative to normal in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean, that tends to lead to a warm eastern U.S. winter. Doesn't mean it won't snow. In fact, there have been some very strong, very impressive blizzards, even with an eastern-based El Nino. I give, for an example, the strong El Nino winter season of 1982-83. There was a tremendous snowstorm in the eastern U.S., the I-95 corridor, in February of 1983, despite the fact that the winter itself was quite mild. On the other hand, if you set up shop with the highest temperatures relative to normal out across the tropical, the central part of the tropical Pacific, that is, by the way, referred to often as a Modoki El Nino event. That tends to lead to more troughiness in the eastern U.S. during the winter season, a colder winter. So that is one of the things we'll be focused in on over the next several months. Again, not only are there signs with the actual water temperatures beneath the surface that this El Nino will start shifting to the west across the equator here, but some computer forecast models tend to indicate that as well for the upcoming winter season, that El Nino will really be concentrated right in the central Pacific Ocean. Now, in either case, whether it's eastern-based or what we call central-based, likelihood is for an above normal snowfall in the eastern U.S. this coming winter season. It's not too hard to predict that we'll have more snow in that D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor compared to last year, which was virtually snowless in part of that I-95 corridor region of the Mid-Atlantic. But I'm talking about above normal snowfall, not just higher than last winter, but above normal in general, is likely for the eastern U.S. during the upcoming winter season. Of course, there are several months to go and a lot of things to consider over the next few months. But that's kind of my initial thinking here. By the way, there's a kind of a warm blob of water here up tucked in south of Alaska in the northwestern part of North America right here, the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean. That kind of was the pattern quite often, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, with a very warm blob of water, again, relative to normal, tucked in that part of the Pacific Ocean. That sometimes leads to upper level ridging right here over Alaska, which in turn can enhance the chance for cold air masses to make their way all the way from northwestern Canada into the central and eastern U.S. By the way, one final note before we leave this sea surface temperature anomaly chart, notice a lot of warmer than normal conditions across the Atlantic Ocean, and we've talked about this before, that these kind of contradictory signals here. Generally, warmer than normal water leads to more tropical activity here in the Atlantic Basin. On the other hand, El Nino across the tropical Pacific tends to inhibit tropical activity. End result, I think we'll have a relatively normal remainder of the tropical season, and by that I mean it tends to ramp up in August, tends to peak in September, tends to ramp down in October, and probably relatively normal number of storms when all is said and done. So in other words, expect the tropical season to really start to ramp up here in the Atlantic Basin during the second half of the month of August. Well, a couple more plots to show here before we get back to the continental U.S. This is again with respect to the developing and intensifying El Nino. We typically separate the regions in the tropical Pacific Ocean and kind of refer to different regions here known as 1+2 or 3, or in this case 3.4, right here in the central part of the Pacific Ocean. This is the west coast of South America, and this is the region right here where it is warmest relative to normal. Again, we saw a moment ago 4 to 5 degree temperatures above normal in this part of the Pacific Ocean. Again, there are reasons to believe that from a relative to normal point of view, that area may shift into the central part of the Pacific Ocean, and the difference between this and out here is quite significant relative to the temperature pattern across the eastern U.S. in the subsequent winter season. So this is the kind of thing we'll be looking at closely over the next couple of months, exactly where that El Nino sets up for the upcoming winter season. Well, in terms of where we stand in that far eastern El Nino region of 1+2, here we go, right here. It's very, very impressive indeed. It's one of the highest relative to normal in the last several decades. This blue line right here represents the very, very strong El Nino of 1997 to 1998, and we're second to that in terms of that far eastern region now. We're just looking just off the west coast of South America, and it is very, very strong. This particular plot goes to the early part of July, and we know that we're even higher here. This is the 4 degrees area right here, so we're very close right now to what it looked like in that 1997-1998 El Nino winter, El Nino time period, that El Nino event. I mentioned the 1982-83. That is also on this plot right here. That is the green right in this region right here. Again, even though that had a far eastern Pacific Ocean concentrated El Nino, it did yield a major snowstorm for the I-95 corridor region in February of 1983, even though the winter itself was quite warm indeed. So a very impressive El Nino just off the west coast of South America. Well, now let's get back to the continental U.S. We have a very active weather pattern continuing. Just take a look at this. Here we are well into the month of August now. We have a lot of below normal heights here across the northern U.S. This is quite active for this time of the year. You can get into October and not see much in the way of upper level troughs this time of the year. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern, and we'll look at these forecast maps from the 060 run of the GFS. This is as we begin the day here on Wednesday, August 9th, and we'll move forward here. And first of all, you notice out in this part of the nation, right here, there is a wave in the upper part of the atmosphere, and that will enhance the severe thunderstorm possibilities across the middle Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley, for later today into tonight. Now, let's continue to move forward here. And we have an impressive system sliding, that same system sliding into the Mid-Atlantic region on Thursday. And it certainly looks like a good chance of afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms later tomorrow on places like Philadelphia, New York City, down to D.C. as well. That wave right here crosses east from the west, from the middle Mississippi Valley to the Mid-Atlantic region by tomorrow. And then we'll get into the day on Friday. Probably a sunny and warm day returns to the Mid-Atlantic region, but we still see upstream some upper level lows. And take a look at what goes on here. Here we go. By the time we get into Saturday afternoon, the middle part of the weekend, kind of a weakening system here moving towards the northeast. By the way, a lot of ridging, continuation of upper level ridging down across the deep south. But then as we get into the latter part of the weekend and the upcoming part of next week, this is Sunday afternoon. Just focus in on this particular wave right here. This is, again, Sunday afternoon, and we will move forward, and that dives to the south and east and intensifies. And here we go. By the time we get to Monday evening, very impressive wave, very similar to last Monday that ended up producing a severe wind event in much of the Mid-Atlantic region. By the way, all the way down to the Carolinas and Georgia on Monday and Monday night. But here we have a strong wave in the upper part of the atmosphere. It will have a surface cool front just like this past situation. So this is something we will be on the lookout for over the next few days and focus in on the possibility of another severe weather event in the Mid-Atlantic region. Let's say later Monday night. We'll go out a little bit farther in time, and here we go. By the time we get to Tuesday morning, an impressive upper level low pressure area right there over the eastern Great Lakes, the western part of the northeast U.S. is something we'll closely focus in on over the next few days. By the way, the system for tomorrow afternoon and evening, nothing to sneeze at as well. There certainly can be an isolated strong thunderstorm or two in the Mid-Atlantic region on Thursday afternoon and evening, but a more impressive threat looks like coming later Monday night. Now let's take a look at the vorticity field. This is again using the 060 run of the GFS. And here's that wave as we begin the day here on Wednesday that will cross to the east from the west, right across the over the middle Mississippi Valley and the Tennessee Valley, and in turn that will increase the chance for severe thunderstorms today in that part of the nation. Now we'll move forward here. Here we go. Here's that wave today. Again, possibility of severe weather in the Tennessee Valley, the middle Mississippi Valley, and then that moves right into the eastern U.S. later tomorrow night. Watch for showers and thunderstorms later tomorrow night in the Mid-Atlantic region. Let's keep moving forward here. Then we go into Friday, probably a dry day returns to the Mid-Atlantic, and then we have a kind of a weak system that pushes into the Mid-Atlantic northeast U.S. on Saturday. May cause a few showers, scattered showers, late Saturday night. Nothing too significant. Then we go into the latter part of the weekend and the early part of next week. And here is that area of vorticity by the time we get to Monday morning. Excuse me. By the way, vorticity again kind of represents a spin in the atmosphere aloft that leads to upward motion down at the surface level. So this is going to, this vorticity maxima will move over the Great Lakes early Monday and then slide southeast right into the eastern Great Lakes, the western part of the northeast U.S., and this will create a very unstable atmosphere for the Mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S. late Monday night time frame. Still 5 days or so away, and we'll kind of focus in on this particular threat over the next several days. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps from the 6Z run of the GFS. Here's that area in the middle of the nation as we begin the day here. And again, watch out later today and early tonight, especially across the middle Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley. This has a lot of upward support, can lead to some severe thunderstorm activity. That slides eastward right into the middle Atlantic region for later tomorrow. The threat of showers and thunderstorms later tomorrow night. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, the rest of the middle Atlantic region, and the southern part of New England as well. Then a dry day on Friday, a weak system early in the weekend heads to the northeastern states. Again, that's not too significant of a system, but the system that ends up coming south and east across the Great Lakes by the latter part of the week, and this system right here, early part of next week, does look potentially significant. Surface low pressure area, an associated trailing cold front running south from the center to the Tennessee Valley as we begin the day on Monday, and then that slides to the east, and some heavy rain is possible across the Delmarva Peninsula, really throughout the middle Atlantic region by the time we get to Monday evening. And look at this, by Monday, late Monday evening, Monday night time frame, quite a bit of significant rainfall depicted here by last night's run of the GFS. And this is certainly a threat to monitor closely over the next few days. Again, we're talking late Monday night time frame. We go all the way into Tuesday morning, and that surface low pressure area moves to the north and east to the southern part of New England. So we talked a lot about a lot of different topics this morning, from the sea surface temperature anomalies, its impact on the remainder of the tropical season, and kind of a quick look at what we'll be looking at for the upcoming winter season, and very active weather pattern continues across the continental U.S. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.